Hello, my name is John Ryan, and on behalf of everyone at Stockyards Bank, I would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity and entrusting us with doing your paycheck protection loan. Stockyards Bank made over 5,000 paycheck protection loans to help protect the payrolls of our customers, and we greatly appreciate that opportunity. What we're talking about today is the process of applying for forgiveness. This particular video will cover loans $150,000 and under. Have to start with a short disclaimer that this video is for informational purposes only and is not meant to provide legal or accounting advice. If you have questions on legal or accounting matters as it relates to your PPP loan, please consult your legal or accounting professional. If you're going to apply for forgiveness through Stockyards Bank, Stockyards needs to be the lender on your PPP loan. If you received a PPP loan from a different lender, you will need to apply for forgiveness through that lender. As most people know, but some do not, forgiveness is not automatic. The PPP loan program provides an avenue for forgiveness. That avenue is an application for forgiveness, which is through the SBA. If Stockyards Bank is your lender, we have your loan, and the way the process works is that you apply through your lender, Stockyards Bank. We do a good faith review of the application. If the application is complete, we will submit to the SBA. The SBA then has a period of time that for some it's a few weeks, for some it is taking several months to grant the forgiveness. The SBA would then pay the forgiveness directly to Stockyards Bank, and we apply that to your loan. If it's full forgiveness, your loan is paid in full. Again, this video is for loans $150,000 and under. For those loans, you use the 3508S form, which the form and instructions can be found on the Stockyards Bank website. It's SYB.com. If you go to the PPP Learn More button, that will give you instructions as to where you need to go. But you start with the application, the 3508S. You use that application whether you're applying for forgiveness for a first round loan or a second round loan. First round loans were done in 2020. In 2021, we did some first round loans, but most are second round loans. And I'll go a little bit more detail. You use the same application, but there is a small difference as to the requirements for a second draw loan. So I'm going to start with doing a very quick summary of the application, and then we'll go in a little bit more detail as to the requirements as it pertains to what goes in it. Be sure that you're using the correct form, the form at the top that says 3508S, revised January 19th, 2021. At the top, you fill in the information related to the borrower's legal name. That should be the name that appeared on your loan documents. Insert the DBA or trade name if that's applicable. Your business address, which should be the same as what was on the application. The NAICS code, which can be found, if you don't know it, at naics.com/search, which will also, a link will be on our website. You need to insert your business tax ID number or social security number if the loan was in a personal name, your business phone, primary contact, and email address. The email address is important, so please make sure that when you complete the document that is clear and legible. You then need to check the box for either a first round PPP loan or a second round PPP loan. If you're applying for both, you will need to fill out a separate application for each loan. There is one difference, which we'll get into in a minute, as far as the documentation required for a second round PPP loan. You need to fill in the SBA PPP loan number. That loan number can be obtained from your Stockyards Bank relationship manager if you do not know it. Your lender PPP loan number, That is the loan number on your loan documents, which if you do not have a copy of, that can also be obtained from your Stockyards Bank relationship manager. Your PPP loan amount, which was the amount dispersed to you. The PPP loan disbursement date, which is the date that you actually received the funds, most likely deposited in your Stockyards Bank deposit account. The employees at the time of the loan application and employees at the time of forgiveness application should be whole numbers. That is not a fractional. So if you have a half-time employee, for the purpose of those two calculations, that person counts as one. The covered period, which is defined in the instructions in more detail, but basically it is the first blank is the date of your loan, and the second blank needs to be a date which is between 56 and 168 days from the date your loan was dispersed, and that period is what you will use for your expenses and your payroll that you will fill in later in the form. If the borrower, together with its affiliates, if that's applicable, received a first draw PPP loan of $2 million or more, or a second draw PPP loan of $2 million or more, you check that box. The only two numbers, dollar amounts, that are in this form are the amount of the loan spent on payroll cost. And again, this is during your covered period. The only requirement, as you'll see in the instructions, is that this number must be at least 60% of the requested amount forgiven. For the requested amount forgiven, this amount for most people will likely be the loan amount. It cannot exceed the loan amount. If the full amount is included in this application and approved by the SBA, when it pays Stockyards Bank for your forgiveness, will include the amount of any accrued interest due, so that if you apply for and receive full forgiveness, your loan amount will be zero after the SBA pays the forgiveness. So after you complete these two numbers, you then need to initial the two certifications. The first certification covers the borrower has complied with all requirements in the Paycheck Protection Program rules, sections 7A 36, 7A 37, and 7A of the Small Business Act, the PPP interim final rules and guidance issued by SBA through the date of this application, including the rules related to eligible uses of the proceeds, the amount of PPP loan proceeds that must be used for payroll cost, the calculation and documentation of the borrower's revenue reduction, and that's on second round loans, and the calculation of the borrower's requested loan forgiveness amount. The information related to those requirements may be found in the instructions to this form, which is included on our website, and the Paycheck Protection Program rules. The detail and everything can be found at sba.gov. The second certification is that the information provided in this application is true and correct and in all material respects, and gives you the outcomes if that's not the case. Following submission of this forgiveness application, this is important. While you don't have to provide the lender with a lot of detail except for the second draw loan, you do need to retain those documents. The borrower must retain all records necessary to prove compliance with the Paycheck Protection Program rules for 4 years for employment records and for 3 years for all other records. The SBA may request additional information for the purposes of evaluating the borrower's eligibility to the PPP loan and for loan forgiveness, and the borrower's failure to provide information requested by the SBA may result in a determination that the borrower was ineligible for the PPP loan or in denial of the borrower's loan forgiveness application. And again, there's detailed, that which we'll cover a little bit more in this video, but in the instructions as to the exact documents that you must retain. The borrower's eligibility for loan forgiveness will be evaluated in accordance with the PPP rules. SBA may direct a lender to disapprove the borrower's loan forgiveness application if the SBA determines that the borrower was ineligible for the PPP loan. Again, Stockyards Bank, as your lender, will do a good faith review of your application. If complete, submit to the SBA, and the SBA will ultimately grant the forgiveness once approved. Once you've gone through that, then you simply sign the form, print your name, date, and title. There is an optional portion for demographic information, but once complete, that should be submitted along with a short form that includes some revenue information to your Stockyards Bank relationship manager. That is for a first round loan. For any second round loan, the second round loan included a requirement that on the application read, reduction in gross receipts of at least 25%, and it said applicants for loans of $150,000 or less may leave blank, but must provide upon or before seeking loan forgiveness or upon SBA request. So if you have not yet provided that with your second round forgiveness application, you must include the documentation to support that. On our website, if you have questions as to what that entails, you will see a document that was released by the SBA on January 19th, 2021, that is the second round Paycheck Protection Program loans, how to calculate revenue reduction and maximum loan amounts, including what documents to provide. That document, question 1, will define the definition of gross receipts if you have questions relating to that. And question 4 includes what documentation do I need to provide to collaborate that my entity sustained at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts. So the answer to that, the following are the primary sets of documentation that the applicants can provide to substantiate their certification of a 25% gross receipts reduction. Only one set is required. You can provide quarterly financial statements for the entity. If the financial statements are not audited, the applicant must sign and date the first page of the financial statements and initial all other pages attesting to their accuracy. If the financial statements do not specifically identify the line item that constitutes gross receipts, the applicant must annotate which line constitutes gross receipts. Quarterly or monthly bank statements for the entire entity showing deposits from the relevant quarters. The applicant must annotate, if it is not clear which deposits listed on the bank statement constitute gross receipts and which do not. And the third, if you don't have quarterly statements, an annual IRS income tax filing of the entity required if using an annual reference period. If the entity has not yet filed a tax return for 2020, the applicant must fill out the return forms, compute the relevant gross receipts value, and sign and date the return, attesting that the values that enter into the gross receipts computation are the same values that will be filed on the entity's tax return. And so that's the documentation that you will need to provide to Stockyards Bank with your second draw loan. If you have any questions as it relates to calculating the quarter to quarter or annual to annual, that is covered in question 3 of the document that is provided on the website. There's also some additional information as far as documentation that you can use to calculate that number. As it relates to repayment of your PPP loan, if you have not yet applied for forgiveness, your loan will start having payments 10 months after your defined covered period. So if your defined covered period was 24 weeks and you add 10 months, for loans that were done in April and May of 2020, payments will begin in late July, August, or early September, and you will receive a notice as to when that payment is due. So that completes the instructions on how to complete the form. This completes this video. There is another video which will include more detail as to the instruction aspect of the form. Thank you.